bar set Big Mac.
Oh, okay.
It is an all drinks to words by, and the party is begun. And we are very excited because on with us is, of course, as you could see, Gregory motherfucking Carlos in the house. Very
The
excited to
man,
have
the
you
myth,
on.
the legend.
Exactly. Finally, you've been in all forms of the show. Now you get to be on the virtual form. So, needless to
Ooh.
say, we're all excited to have you on and to pick at your brain because there are a few things, of course, that we want to get to. But this isn't all new drinks to words by. We want to know what everyone is drinking. So, go ahead, David, and start us off.
I am having a my version of the Big Mac.
La Big Mac.
Didn't have to muddle. I couldn't muddle the blackberries this time, so they're just frozen blackberries.
Okay. All right. I mean, was it you were just lazy, or you just
Well, my wife's in the kitchen and she's like putting her foot in it, so I didn't want to disturb her by pulling out the blender and all that. Because again, the blackberries are frozen, so I was just like, all right, pop them in there.
right? Real quick sidebar. Greg, how would you feel if you just put like blackberry juice instead? Do you think that would change the drink a little bit?
Um, flavor wise, not a whole lot, but when you're in the bar setting, it's more about like the preparation and building the drink. So I think that's like a whole different experience when you're doing it at home. Like for example, if you were gonna try to like batch that cocktail and do it on like a large scale for a lot of people, you could cook down the blackberries into a syrup, like a blackberry simple syrup, real heavy on the blackberry, and then just do like a bourbon with that syrup, and then add some cranberry juice and put it on the rocks, and you can garnish it or not. But if you start with fresh blackberries, you'll get like a way closer taste to what you're used to having at the bar than if you use a frozen. But if you buy the fresh, you can cook those down into a syrup that'll stay good for it'll stay good for a week, but you probably finish it in like a day or two.
Yeah, yeah, good. That's a good pro tip for everyone. Still making their cocktails at home. I myself
Did it?
am.
I did it on a wedding venue one time, and as a bartender, like we made a drink menu for the guests so that it would kind of narrow down how much alcohol the people who were hosting the wedding would have to provide. And had I just thought this through and actually followed the instructions I just gave you, like we could have cranked the drinks out so much faster. But instead, we literally muddled blackberry for every single cocktail for like a 200-person wedding. And,
Oh,
um, it was crazy. But afterwards, I thought, man, we could have just like prepped a little harder and like made syrup out of the blackberries and just kind of like adjusted the recipe a little bit to accommodate that.
Yeah,
And so yeah, like if you wanted to do it at home, you could do it that way instead of like going through the process of like muddling it and building it every time.
yeah, definitely. But everything is, a build up. When we started doing, I wanted to wait to get you on to have you on the right time for the virtual show because we had to get some test subjects on, just to check everything out, make sure everything was going good. And it finally, progressed to where we can now have like people on that are important. Not saying that other people were important, but we're just like, okay,
you were on before. It was him, not me.
yeah. So so I totally get that. And once you go through something and it takes a couple times, and somebody has to be the first one through the door, and go through an experience like that in order to realize the next time would be a lot better. But I myself am drinking a glass of wine. I just finished having dinner, and I went and I bought the most expensive $2 wine that there was. So this is how it's going for me. I miss drinking wine. I haven't drank wine in a while.
You know what? I've kind of been on a small break from it, but about a month or so ago, I was on this kick with a certain like brand that I really just kind of fell in love with. And it was so easy to just sit down and watch TV and have a couple glasses and the stuff just, and a bottle of wine is only 4 glasses. So it's
Yeah.
like, You can drink a bottle of wine fairly easy, and then
two if you're really into it.
Yeah.
decide whether or not you want to like commit to the fifth glass and open another bottle, or just call it at that point.
Yeah. What are you drinking, Greg?
You know, actually drinking water at this point. My favorite little Topo Chico, and then I'm kind of savoring on a drink I had. I had to go down to the bar today to pick up a bottle that I bought from somebody. It was like a European edition of something. And so it shipped in finally, and they brought it to me there. And it was quite dry. Like, the guy's he's a cool guy. He's a friend and somebody like in the whiskey world that I talk to quite a bit. And so he brought the bottles to me, and like just sitting there going over stories and talking about the industry. And, he's a bartender as well, and how things are going to be and what's looking. And we decided to just splurge a little bit and have a really good pour. And we had some of that double Eagle Very Rare, the 20-year Eagle Rare. And so I'm kind of like savoring on that, because we just, we poured ourselves like an ounce and just sat there, and, you sit there with your nose in the glass at the time when you have something like that, just like examining every little bit of it, I guess. And so I got home and I was like, I don't even feel like having my Fernet yet, I'm kind of like relishing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait for the bar to open up so we can all try all that and get to it.
You better save that stimulus check.
I know. Trust me, I'm like waiting for it to come. You know what I mean? I'm like, come on, stimulus check. There's tons of bottles that I want to buy. Especially the Cove's whiskey, the Cove's Makers, one of my absolute favorites, and I've been dry without that for quite some time. So that's definitely one of the first things I'm going to buy once I get that stimulus check. So the reason why we have you on, Greg, is because I saw a post that I knew was near and dear to David's heart. And of course, what I'm talking about is Coming to America, the sequel to Coming to America. And before I get your take, I know how near and dear this is to David's heart. And I wanted to get David's take first before we get on to yours. I think my take might be a little off from your guys's, not on purpose, but there are certain things that I understand when watching a movie. But David, go ahead. You have the floor to begin on this
Okay.
take.
So I guess first and foremost, Coming to America, the original, is my favorite comedy, like bar none. I quote it left and right. Absolutely love the movie. Thought it was hilarious. I went into this movie with no hope because I just knew it's 30 years later. And I didn't post anything because one, I was going to wait for the show. Two, people actually liked it. Some people, for whatever reason, they found joy in this movie, and I did not. It's not his worst movie. But it wasn't a good movie. They tried way too hard to appeal to too many genres of people. You had the 40-plus-year-olds when you had Salt and Pepper and In Vogue.
That was cool. I like that. I like that part.
And then you had you were trying to bring in the teenage to 25 with all the hip hop songs, like when his son was singing to the other princess. Like at one point, I thought it was a musical. Like it got really music heavy, and they're remaking their own songs to talk about the king, and it was like I felt to a point like there was no acting. It was just cut scenes of trying to be funny. And the nostalgia of it, I can appreciate. When they brought Randy Watson, spoiler if you haven't watched it, Randy Watson, and they brought Peaches and Cream, and like they got big.
Yeah.
They had too much.
Stood the test of time. Louis Anderson, by the way. Holy cow! I was like, he's still alive.
right?
I literally thought I heard something that said he died like 5 or 6 years ago. So I was like, when I saw him, I was like, wait, are they CGIing him into this movie or what the fuck is going on?
He looks, yeah. I thought after he was because he was the host of Family Feud for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he died when they took him off the show. I was like, that's why he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm with you there.
But you know what, I knew it wasn't going to be good, and I was correct. It was not a good movie. It was the jokes were far few between. There's a couple chuckles that I had just for like I said, for nostalgia purposes. But like it looked like Eddie Murphy took
A
like
paycheck.
he sucked the life out of Arsenio Hall. Like he took all his weight and life essence.
Right.
Arsenio, somebody told me Arsenio Hall actually looked African. So, but I think right. I think another part of it was like Eddie's was like when you watched him Eddie in his early years, he was a physical comedian. Like he did like a little bit of action with like Beverly Hills Cop. Like he's like too big to do that anymore, and he's not a good actor. He's not a good actor. He's a comedic actor, and if you don't have that physical comedy behind you, I just that's my take.
All right. So, scale of 1 to 10, what do you give it, David?
That's a tough one. For nostalgia reasons, I will give it a 4.
Wow. Okay. All right. Greg, you have the floor, and what was your take on it?
Okay, so from the get, I'm gonna say that I wasn't a real big fan of it, and I'll be 100% honest. Like that movie means a lot to me as well, and I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. So I was already a little bit biased, and I went into it knowing that. Like, how do you recapture lightning in a bottle? You know what I mean? Like they had it perfect the first time from start to finish. There's no bad parts to that movie. So the second go around was going to be very tough for them, regardless of how they did it. Um, in general, like the entire movie, I feel like it was just a bunch of low hanging fruit. You know what I mean? Like they did try to appeal to a lot of genres, and I feel like they just tried to get something out there for the people who were begging for it. And I spent a lot of time listening to the press during the week of the launch, and like Arsenio was doing a lot of stuff, and he did Stern, and it was a great interview. But I started to get the impression after listening to that it's like one of those things where everybody else wants to work, and maybe Eddie Murphy was like, "Nah, I don't need to do this," and everybody was like, "Yes, let's do this. Like that's gonna be great." Like they talked him into it or something, and look at the outcome. I think I counted maybe 2 times that I laughed, and they were both the barbershop scenes because I felt like they were funny. The interaction was genuinely like 30 years ago. It felt like we just walked back into Mighty Sharp, and it was like nothing had changed. You know what I mean? Even like I don't know. I mean, they just looked great. Like it was great there, but from the Hunchback soothsayer or whatever that was to like the songs, like honestly, the songs were the worst part of it for me because not only did they do way too much music, but the music was terrible. Like, it was corny. It was like nearly unwatchable. You know what I mean? And I watched it with Damaris, and she's another like person that I knew she was going to be a hard one to sell on this. And there was no other person that I got to watch this with. I was like, when are you going to watch this? Because I want to be able to talk about it with you. And she's like, I'm coming over on Friday. We're watching it. So we watched it when it came out. And I mean, I'm going to say within like 10 to 15 minutes of it being on, we were like, ooh, I don't want to hate this, but
Right.
it's just not good. And there was a ton of nostalgia. And for that same reason, like I agree with David's rating. Like I think it was a solid 4, just because of the amount of people they got to come back. And like, I'm sorry, there was just parts of the movie that were fucking awful. Like the funeral. I'm like, I mean, do we talk about it? Are we gonna talk about it, or do you want me to leave parts of this out? Should we talk about it?
Talk.
Watch.
Go.
Okay, that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like he died on command.
He was that good of a king, you know.
And secondly, the other thing that I really didn't appreciate about the plot was that they had to go find Eddie Murphy's son because he was so weak. And I'm like, what happened to Zamunda? Like,
Right.
all of a sudden we have to skip a generation just to hold it down? Like, what happened? You know what I mean? Like, Eddie wasn't like I don't know what to call him. Like, he wasn't a wuss or whatever in the first one just because he wanted to like change the rules to get married and this and that. You know what I mean? Like, that plot was terrible. I mean, we have to go find a complete stranger so that the neighboring tribes or whatever won't try to take us over when I die, which will be up.
Right.
You know, I'm like,
and the worst part was the name of the country, Nextdoria. It's like they didn't even fucking try. Like, dude, I don't know.
Fruit.
But Wesley Snipes was a complete doll. I loved watching him. He completely stole the show. I mean, not that there wasn't much to steal.
That's the only thing he stole.
You know what? I think generously, because nostalgic reasons, that movie is nothing more than a 4. A 4. And that's generous because I don't think I could even give it another shot.
Wow.
You know? And again, I'm one of those people that like I have great ties to that movie. And you know, like it's like if they wanted to redo like The Big Lebowski, you know what I mean? Like,
oh my God, yeah.
You don't do that. You got it right and you got it perfect. Let it be. You know, it is what it is for a reason. And we don't need to come revisit that. Like I'm sure most of those people had enough money to not do this, but a lot of them were probably like, "Come on, Eddie, we could do this." And like, I don't know, man. If you heard any of the press before the week before with Arsenio, he was selling it hard. You know what I mean? Like he really needed this to work. You know what I mean? And like, I think out of everybody, he was the one who looked the most like time really was not kind to him, comparatively speaking to the other actors in that movie. I mean, you know, even James Earl Jones held up better than Arsenio Hall. and he died.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I hate to be a hater about it, but it wasn't good. It just wasn't good.
Yeah. But my biggest thing that I knew out the gate that it wasn't going to be good was 2 things, right? In the beginning of it, you know, in the beginning of the first ever Coming to America, the whole premise is he's going to do something different. He's going to change the rules. Then 30 years later, he's like, well, my daughter can't be a queen. I'm like, well, you can change the rules. That's what you did last time. What happened to you that all of a sudden, you know, you're becoming, you know, what you thought you didn't want to be? That
Your
was
father.
yeah, right. Like you didn't want to become him, and then you do. And I thought that was extremely off character for this. I thought it would have been a much better idea had it been him, you know, going back to America to seek like political asylum or something like that. You know, I think that would have been a much better idea. And keeping with that, you know, I see a lot of people in their reviews, but one of the things that I like to do is instead, what can we have done to make this movie better?
I got suggestion 1.
Okay, go for it, Greg.
No Leslie Jones.
No, Leslie Jones. God.
Oh, I mean, she's hard to watch. You know, it's like she's doing a character. You're not getting like Leslie Jones. You're getting this like half Chris Rock, half Gilbert Gottfried, like mixture of like just annoying. You know what I mean?
That's
like
her character and everything. That's who she is.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So like,
okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't make a jump. The one scene that I actually did laugh though was I did like the flashback scene where they're at the club. Not the club scene, but when they're back at the apartment and they still have the dog tape on there. Because they did shame what they did to that dog. When she grabs the candle and then like wobs her vagina, I laughed at that. That was like the only thing that I laughed out loud.
Yeah, it was like it got you. It got a laugh, but like I feel like she's so put on. You know what I mean? And it's like it's exhausting to watch somebody. I don't know. She's like a combination of a lot of things. Like she's trying to be like with a Chris Rock delivery, but she's got the likability of like Gilbert Gottfried and like Bobcat Goldthwait. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't like her, and then I feel like she screwed up Supermarket Sweep too. So I'm like,
I haven't even watched that one. I won't watch it.
I was on Supermarket Sweep, the
You and
original.
Damaris.
Were you?
You and
Absolutely.
Damaris, right?
Yeah, Damaris and I went on that show and we won. You know, we took home some money, but you know, watching the revamp it with her, it's like the Leslie Jones show. You know, and she comes in so strong that I feel like she just takes over anything she's in. Like every scene she was in, it was her. You know, she's definitely like the loudest one in the room, and she's got this huge personality. And I know a lot of people like her. I just don't find her funny. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of her too. So I'm like, could have used a little less Leslie.
Yeah. Any other suggestions that we would have? I did enjoy Wesley Snipes. I did kind of enjoy. I wish they would have used him in some other way. You know, whether like him being like the illegitimate bastard of James Earl Jones's character. I think that would have brought a funnier element
Give you that one.
to it.
That they're actually brothers.
Yeah. And to my credit, I don't believe that this is the first time I've ever seen Wesley Snipes and Eddie Murphy together. So I was a little like wow, I can't believe they've never done anything together, and this was like their first time. I believe maybe they have done something, but not to my knowledge.
They
And
should have done the crossover of Blade and Vampire in Brooklyn.
that would have been funny if they would have been watching that. Like, this is the new TV show that's like that Zamundo is watching.
Yeah.
See, my thing is like that movie. Like you cut out the music and actually just make it a movie because they rushed so much of it. Like especially that wedding part where they fly back to New York and they're gonna get married the same day they fly back from New York. Like you barely know this girl. She cut your hair. That's it. It's like all of a sudden. Like at least in Lisa and like the original story, there was like some courting. There was a date. There was the Duke cameo from Trading Places, but it was like Eddie Murphy was like it was like if Eddie Murphy asked, "Who do I owe a favor to?" All right, you're gonna be in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, never.
I'm like, who else can we get?
He's like Adam Sandler, just loading the thing up with all his friends, you know.
Adam Sandler is like the number one. Like, I'm gonna take care of my crew.
Mm-hmm.
Like that dude puts everybody in movies.
Yeah,
like, you're always gonna work. I respect that. May not always be funny, but at least that this is like if Eddie had stayed consistent and kept putting people in movies and helped launching careers, as opposed to making sure that his career was above everybody else's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would I give Coming to America? I would give it a 5. It wasn't like the greatest thing. I watched it, and I said this in my brain. I said I'm so glad that I didn't watch this in a movie theater. Because
I didn't pay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all paid, because we all or some way or another, because we all have the Amazon or whatever. But I think that's been the saving grace lately of all the movies that I've been watching, whether it's Wonder Woman or Coming to America. It was like, dude, I would have went to the movies and paid to see this, but I'm so glad that I didn't. And that's kind of one of those ones where I'm like, well, I wasted 2 hours of my life on a Friday night with the bar closed, and the bar
but But if you were in the theater, the bar would have been open, and you could have went out to the bar and drank and forgot the movie.
No, that would have been the topic of the bar. Just walking
Oh, no
around. Did
doubt,
you
no
see it?
doubt.
Did
You know
you
how the
see
bar
it?
gets on like a movie premiere night? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
forget about it.
Spoilers. There's a
yeah.
guy on guy.
That was that was always my favorite, is walking in and going to the movie and then walking into the bar and then talking about it with whoever. I was there with all the day regulars, because I would always go watch my matinee and then like walk in for like a nice like post uh, movie cocktail, and I'd be talking it up about the latest or whatever, or just even weird stuff that I'd watch that I'd be like, yeah, you haven't seen what's that, the Phantom Thread, and you know what I mean. Everyone's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh my god, you're missing out. So yeah, I do miss stuff like that, but again, I'm glad I didn't see it. Speaking of movie characters, the one movie character that wasn't in there that I was surprised was Will Smith. I thought Will Smith was gonna make some sort of cameo in there, because it just kind of seemed like the Avengers of, like, actors, you
Black
know what I
people.
mean?
In black.
Coming together. I mean,
No, they had Morgan
Morgan.
Freeman.
I know. I was like, all right, Will Smith has to like come
Man,
out.
You can't have two number ones though. You can't have two people at that high level. Like he would have superseded it,
Do you
and it has to be Eddie's movie.
do you think
Eddie
Eddie
has to be the
Murphy is a
most famous
number
person.
one over Will Smith?
who gets top billing there?
I mean, Will Smith is just making a cameo, really. You know what I mean? Just to, again, I thought like something like that was gonna happen. You know what I mean? I was glad for all the cameos, but they
Yeah.
needed that little extra, something. And the reason why I bring him up is because maybe he was busy. Maybe you've heard about this or not. He might run for president.
I have not heard this.
Have you? No, no. Is this the first time you guys are hearing about this? How would you
I,
feel if a
I
Will
I
Smith
heard The Rock. I heard The
really?
Rock might do like 2028.
Jesus,
This is getting ridiculous. We got The Rock and Will Smith running for president.
it's enough already.
Yeah, no, I don't even want to. I don't want to jump on this topic.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, really?
Yeah,
Oh God.
I just couldn't believe that. It's like I just found
no,
out about this new thing. Okay, we know about Netflix and chill, right?
Hmm.
Now there's D&D, which I thought was Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm like, yeah, I'm all for that. But the new thing about D&D is Disney and Dick. That's the new Netflix and chill.
Yeah. Okay.
Disney Plus and Dick.
Well, D&D, yeah, you know what I mean.
Disney
Disney
Dick.
Plus, there should be Disney Plus Dick, you know what I mean.
Yeah. D plus D.
Yeah. Equals a good time.
Yeah, yeah. These guys are telling me about it. A lot of my sexual, education comes from guys, that are usually drunk and telling me things, about how to get chicks. And they were telling me this in the midst
Dude,
of,
come watch Hannah Montana and then blow me.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The reason why I bring this up is because my bar just opened up on Friday, and so I had to work. So I had all my regulars come in, and so I got to spend time with them. Then after the bar closed, they're like, "Hey, after party at my house." And so I was like, all right, like we closed the bar at a nice 9 o'clock. And I was like, okay, I got nothing else to do. Let me go over there. And so they were all just drinking even more, But one of the funniest things was I hadn't seen these people since November. So I was wishing them all a happy new year, and they were all just getting a kick out of it. Cause I mean, I haven't seen them. So why can't I do that? It's happy new year to somebody. And so they take me there. I after work I go to their house, and while they're trying to tell me all this, they're trying to get a flight to Vegas. That is their When you're drunk, a flight to Vegas is like the biggest thing that they were thinking of. And they finally got me. They're like, Albert, you have to look up a flight to Vegas. And then I had 3 guys who are like, I'm paying for the flights and I'm paying for the hotel. And I'm like, you guys are fucking drunk. I don't know. And they're like, Albert, you're still sober. You could drive us. And I'm like, like I don't know about driving. They're like, to the airport. And I'm like, well, let's go see. So I looked to see if there were any flights to Vegas. And in my head, I'm like, of course. Why wouldn't there be, flights to Vegas? It's Vegas. And we looked, and sure enough, there were no flights scheduled, and I couldn't believe that. I know, Greg, you're a Vegas kind of guy these days. I don't know if you've been there or not, but has there been a lot of people going to Vegas? Do you know?
So I can speak on like what I see. I haven't been to Vegas since last February, I think it was, right before everything happened. And I haven't gone at all, just because I've heard a lot of people who I know have gone and just said they haven't enjoyed themselves because of all the restrictions in place, and they're a little bit wary about being around a lot of people, and a lot of the bars aren't open, and it's like ever evolving what the rules are. So um, I haven't been personally. I miss it dearly, and this is the longest I've gone without going in
Getting the itch.
plus years.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with it. I'm dealing with that. But I tell you this, because like geographically where I live, I see the commute of people from like the LA Inland Empire area going to Las Vegas, and it's crazy. I mean, like if you see what the 15 freeway looks like on a Friday going north, and then what it looks like coming south on Sunday, it's like enough to make you not want to go.
Wow.
And a lot of the people that I go with fly, which I don't, because it doesn't make sense, like because of
Yeah.
like live,
Right.
But a lot of the people I go with fly, and they don't have to deal with any of that. But they're not going to fly right now. They're feeling a little bit weird about travel in general. So like Scott and Mary, for example, just like somebody we all know in common, they've gone like once or twice since this happened, because Scott was just intent on like, I'm not gonna not go for my birthday. Like, he
Yeah.
has a real like, just I'm gonna do what I want attitude. You know what I mean? And so like, even if they told him you shouldn't go, he's gonna go. So him and Mary have gone, and she was one of the people who told me like it's just not the same because there's no bar service here. And like you can get drinks from cocktail servers, but there's no bar you can go sit at and like just drink, because they were all closed at that time. So it changed things for her drastically. Um, it doesn't matter for Scott because he sits and plays the games like all day long. So, he's kind of like unaffected by it. But I don't know. I've heard a lot of my friends talking about going at the end of this month because they've all been vaccinated
Yeah.
and things are slowly getting back to normal. And over there, they feel comfortable with like the protocols that are in place with spacing people out and this and that. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go or not. I've been vaccinated.
Have you
So,
Oh,
really?
have you?
yeah, I got vaccinated yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
First dose, second dose, or
One dose, J&J.
You
oh,
got the J&J?
The J&J. And
Wow.
today I'm like body aching. My arm, like where the injection was
Yeah.
given, is really, really sore. I just like can't tell you how tired I am. Like I got home from the vaccine, and it was like 11 a.m. I took it, and by 3 o'clock I was in bed, and I took a nap for like 2 hours, and I just felt a little groggy. And then today I had to like peel myself out of bed at like 7 o'clock. I was just like, it felt like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling a little bit today, but I don't feel terrible. Like I don't have like major side effects or anything. I just don't feel like myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I assume by tomorrow I'll probably feel much better, especially after I sleep good tonight. But I don't know. I feel very fortunate that like food workers are now included in the people who are eligible, which we all kind of fall into that category. So I took advantage of it. Like in my area, we got a lot of doses up here, and largely, I don't want to say, I don't know how to say this. There's a large section of the community here who doesn't believe in the vaccine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're not going to let the microchips go in. And there's a lot of that in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people think that Trump is still the president on my street. You know what I mean? Like, that he's governing things from like some bunker, and they still have all the flags flying, and like, they just don't trust the vaccine. They're like, there's no way they're going to. So there's a ton of availability in my area for appointments. I got my vaccine at Target.
No way.
Yeah, they asked me, well, where do you want to go? And they gave me like a list of addresses, and all of them were like kind of in an area that I didn't really want to go in. You know, I'm not saying it was like ghetto. I don't want to go east. I could just go north a little bit. You know what I mean? So I went to Target, which is like a CVS pharmacy, and got it right there. And the vaccine was free, but it cost me like $100 to get out of the store. So I,
That's how they get you.
after I took all, they observe you for like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and so after that, I just kind of walked around and bought a few things and then went home and let the suffering commence.
Yeah, I just got vaccinated myself on Friday, and that was it was a quick experience, but driving home, and they say every dose and every vaccination is different for everybody else. But there was a time where I felt like super euphoric, and I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling euphoric because I've been vaccinated or what. And I had to look at myself in the mirror. That was the other thing too. I was just like, I'm like, am I really being taken over? Does Bill Gates really care about like my life?
I understand what you're saying. And you know what? Like, you can compare it to a lot of other things. Like, for example, if you think back to like the first experience you had with anything, whether it be like alcohol or marijuana or, any kind of substance, let's say, and you're sitting there and you're thinking like, is it hitting me yet? Like, am I feeling it? Like, you feel like this sense of euphoria, or like something's coming over you.
Yeah.
Could have been like, you could have been like, what's the word where they give you placeboed and still been experiencing like sensations physically. You know what I mean? So I can totally relate, because I felt the same way when I left. I was like, shit, do I need observation right now? I pulled the drive.
Yeah, but again, the whole thing too was like Bill Gates does not care if I get microchip. Like, I'm sure he's that was his main goal, is we got to do this just so Albert or Greg can get microchipped. And to that I always laugh at people. I'm like, guys, like that's the most ridiculous thing that you could ever think of. We have phones.
Following me by my phone and
Exactly.
all the I visit, and my social media isn't enough. Like, come on.
So yeah, so but it's weird because once you get vaccinated, I kind of feel like, man, I could go out now. I could, like, I'm now like I'm gonna get a gym membership. I feel like I'm. I have to. I was gonna wear my Cove shirt. Does not fit. I was just like, I got to.
Yeah, I felt a sense of relief. And, mostly it just makes me feel like there's some hope on the horizon. It doesn't make me feel like I want to go out and be around people, or like, go to a crowded bar or anything like that. I just feel like this is the first thing I could do to kind of get my life back to close to the way it was before this. You know what I mean? So I was excited to get it. A lot of people don't want it, and a lot of people are looking at me like I'm crazy, especially the J&J one.
Yeah.
Because there's like fetal cells in there, and there's like all this stuff, and I'm just like, send it. I'm ready.
Send it. I've done worse.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I've slept on a fucking bar floor.
I've slept on the pool table.
I drank the bar mat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard if you touch the mats that we walk on behind the bar, you're pretty much immune to coronavirus anyway.
It's true. Speaking from someone that touches them,
Yeah.
It's
I
complete.
touched them today just in case.
Oh, yeah, really? Okay, that's cool. I got that.
So with all this said, and I don't know if it's an April Fool's joke, but did you see that April 1st they're supposed to open up all the theme parks?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make a lot of sense? I mean, to open up Disneyland, that's a lot of like. How do you regulate how many people? Like, you're gonna start a
Tickets.
fucking riot when that day comes, and you're only allowed to let 15% in, and the people that are outside are just like, I drove all the way out here. I took the day off. It's gonna be like that incident at Knott's Berry Farm all over again. Remember that one?
It's gonna be like when they ran out of chicken sandwiches at Popeyes and everybody started killing each other. And I was like, what for? Who gives a shit? Like, who wants to go fucking Disneyland that bad? My God.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Listen, I don't have anything against Disneyland. They're fine. You know, they produce movies and they do all this other shit. They own Channel 7. Great. I don't want to be there 6 times a year. You know, like enough. Like it's enough. I live far too, and I'm an adult male, so it's like, you know, there's that. But like, I don't know, man. Like just the fascination with Disney, for some people I get it. It's like they're whimsical and they feel like a child again or whatever it may be. But I think I'm just too grumpy for that shit, man. Like, you know,
I don't like people enough. I don't. There's too many fucking
yeah.
people.
I actually had a conversation with a bartender a couple nights ago about that very subject. I'm like, why do people like us who are so introverted, who don't want to deal with people like in our regular lives, like we stay home and we communicate in like tight networks of people that don't include like, a lot of like outsiders, so to speak. And
Yeah.
then we go into the bartending industry and like the service industry and the industry where we have to sit there and talk to people for 8 to 10 hours a day. I'll just never figure that out. We're like so comfortable and we can talk with anybody and strike up a conversation with an old guy, a young girl. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But then the minute you walk away from the job, you're just like, don't talk to me.
How
Like,
dare you?
It's because you expelled all that energy already, and like you already met your quota of people in your brain that day. You already went through all your IGs. You know what I mean?
yeah,
In a sense.
talking to this guy who's like a consultant for bars, and he helps like bars do this and that, make menus, make drinks, design the place, furniture, lighting, whatever. And we were just talking about a venue, like a particular bar that's not even really around right now, but I got to talking about it, and I was like, so you're working really hard, like getting all these places to launch. What do you do in your free time? Like, do you visit any of these places, or like, do you maintain relationships with any of these people that work there? And he's just like, hell no, I stay home and it's just me and the dog. Like, and as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, I totally can relate because, not only do I live far, so I'm like a total disconnect once I get up the hill, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, it's me and the dogs. And I'm like, I don't want to hear anything from people generally, like, I'm not a real social person when it comes down to it until I get behind the bar. And then it's like, it's the total opposite.
It's like you flip a switch.
Yeah, it's just such a weird field to go into considering that. You
Yeah.
would think I would have like chose to go into something like relating to like computers or like something you could just do solitary, you know what I mean? Like didn't involve a whole lot of interaction.
Yeah.
Well, before you were a bartender, didn't you sell like camera lenses or something like that?
No, I did before I was a bartender, I was in optometry. Like I
Optometry.
did eyeglasses. And then before that, I was in photography. And I did like family portraits and stuff like that. And it was just real commercial. You know what I mean? Not like I got contracted and went to people's houses. Like I worked at one of those places you brought your family in and we took your pictures. You know what I mean?
You were
You're
a
doing
glamour
star
shot.
shots.
Not glamour shots, no. But like you know what I mean? Like a family style
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Not like places where you have like cholas coming to like back to back pictures with
Yeah,
all
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
No. So I mean,
And then put them in your folder.
I feel like out of all the stuff I've done, like bartending has probably given me the opportunity to be the most myself, and kind of keep it more real, I guess you could say. But for me, like I think I could do anything, like Retail, I did retail. I've been pretty lucky to get by and be pretty good at the stuff that I did before this,
Yeah.
And this just kind of stuck. Like this, I just saw an opportunity, and I was just like, I have to try this. I had a lot of other friends that were bartending, and I was helping them out. They were training, so I would like drink all their drinks.
Sacrifice, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this one's way too sweet. The next one, don't make it like this, And like a lot of places that they were working at would make them test. Like they would give them like 7 pages front to back of like alphabetized cocktails that they would have to know. And it was always funny to me because I used to think like, how intimidating. Like, how would you ever remember all those? And then what I learned shortly after starting to bartend is that 85% of the drinks on that list, nobody will ever order.
Yeah.
I don't even know they exist.
You know what I mean? It's like, I can't remember the last time somebody walked into the bar and was like, let me get a Grasshopper. Like, okay.
I don't even know what that is. What is a Grasshopper?
Creme de menthe drink, green, and I don't even remember what's in it actually. I think it's a vodka base, but it's a mint creme de menthe like cocktail. So
Wow.
I don't know, man. Like,
Let me get a Scooby snack.
yeah, and then like everything changes so fast now too. So you wouldn't even be able to train. Like if you were going to train a bartender now, you would want to train on the fundamentals and then your menu, how to make the drinks on your menu. You know what I mean? So that they could be competent and serve everything the way you want it to be. Because like honestly, like if you try to go through and teach people all the classics, I think they do that in bartending school, and that's cool because it's like fundamentals. You know which glass to use for which style drink,
Right.
and how to build a cocktail and start here first and start with ice, then your spirit, then your mixer. You know what I mean? But like for the most part, like I've only known maybe 2 people who've gone to bartending school and actually went and got jobs after that. And they were like, oh, I went to bartending school and I got a job, Like most of them go to bartending school and then figure out that they didn't need to go to bartending school and then just start serving and then work their way up to the bar.
Right. Right. What has been your correlation with the jigger? Because I know that at one point in your life you were anti-jigger, but it seems that you've embraced it.
I've fully embraced the jigger. Like honestly, but I think its application has to be appropriate, okay?
Okay.
So here's what I mean by that. Like a lot of bars or restaurants or whatever implement the jigger because it's a cost thing. We need to make sure that you're not pouring more than 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces in the drinks because, in the corporate world, they're really dialed in on the bottom line and there's not a lot of room for screw up. And you know what I mean? Like it's very much like profit driven, you know what I mean? Which sets a certain tone in your bar, because we all know that there's bars where like the owners are just so damn cheap. Like they won't do anything for the customers. The employees are treated shitty, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, like the jigger comes into play when you're really getting into drinks that have like 4 and 5 ingredients. Like I would say every single one of the bartenders that I work with can physically just hand count the measurements for the cocktails. But I think that it's important to have a standard so that, because honestly, like in my opinion, everybody runs their programs differently and how they like their bar to go. But for me, my pet peeve is to hear somebody come in and say, oh, you should order the Bloody Mary because Andrea's working. She makes the best Bloody Marys. Like, as much as I'm complimented that they think she makes great drinks, I'm equally as insulted because like they don't think that Cindy and Marcus and everybody else makes it as good. You know what I mean? So I think that when you get down to having drinks that are more complicated, especially like when you get to 4 and 5 ingredients and it's got a lot of, modifiers or bitters and this and that, I think it's important to have a standard so that the product always tastes the same no matter who makes it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I think that everybody that I work with can physically count a 1/4 ounce, a 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounces, whatever. But to make sure that you get it right every single time and that there's no variance, I think it's important. For me, it's never really been about the cost in a drink. And by the way, if you come into the Cove and you order a Jack and Coke, you won't see the jigger come out for that. You know what I mean? Like, we know how to pour 2 ounces in a cocktail, you
Yeah.
know. But there are some things. Okay, now there are some things like when you look at rare and limited items, where we have bottles in the bar that are $2,000-3,000 at our cost. You know what I mean? So that's another one that's going to get jigger poured, because we need to make sure that we're controlling the pour on that. We can't afford to pour 2.5 ounces in those glasses because we price everything aggressively. So, the markup is not present in our bar the same way it would be in like your typical whiskey bar that might have these offerings, or a restaurant or whatever. So for me, that's important on like hard to get items, bottles that we get a year of. We don't want to just free pour those, because there's times where you just accidentally, dump a
Yeah.
little bit extra in the glass, and it's like, well, it's always great to hook the customer up a little bit and give them some love. But then it's like, if we had priced those bottles with a huge markup, then okay, yeah, there would be a little bit more wiggle room. But since we work so hard to try to make like rare and limited offerings available to the public that would not normally be able to get to them, because they're not going to spend $6,000 on the secondary market, or they're not going to drive to Palm Springs or even downtown LA and pay $50, $100 more than what we charge for it. So jigger's good in a lot of ways. I think there's only been one time, like in the last couple of years, where the jigger had to come out for a customer. And I don't know. You're laughing because I
I
think
know
you,
who. I know who.
right. And it's funny how this happened, because like I've owned the Cove for like 6 years now, and I've been there for nearly 20. Right.
Yeah.
I have never heard people complain about drinks there. Like I can't taste the alcohol. That's not something you generally hear in that bar. So like this particular customer was like, I taste the alcohol anytime everybody makes the drinks except for one bartender. It's like she has it out for me or something. And I had to approach it from like a standpoint of just like, look, nobody has it out for you. Like, you are who you are. Like,
Yeah.
you're part of the customers that come here. We appreciate your business and your patronage. You put up with us, we put up with you. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, it's a give and get situation. And after the complaint, I thought to myself, well, shit, like, how do we make this consistent for him so that it's always the same? I know we use the jigger. That way, in case, he's not getting what he's paid. I told him straight up, I said, you know what? I think this is a legitimate concern, and I don't want you to be charged for anything that you don't drink. So from now on, I will make sure that every time you order a drink that you get the 2 ounces that you paid for. And they'll use a jigger to pour your drink so that you don't get shorted. And like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3, 4 days go by, and the customer's in the bar on a different bartender's shift, not the one that he complained about. And he says, I should have kept my big mouth shut, because the drinks were so much better before. And since I complained, I feel like I'm being punished. And I'm just like, look, like maybe some people just don't know a good thing when they have it.
Yeah.
So the jigger is good. The jigger is important for a lot of reasons, but in my case, I think it's most important so that you have consistency. I always like to compare it to In-N-Out, because it doesn't matter who's working at In-N-Out. The burger always tastes the same. It's always delicious. It's consistent. Like, it doesn't matter if there's a guy working, a girl working, an old man, a tween. It doesn't matter. Like, their training program is so good, and their standards are so like thorough, that it's always the same, no matter if you're in Pomona or Hesperia. It's like, no matter where you go, it's the same. So I always kind of want to like impart that same standard, because like, I don't want people to say, well, we don't want to go there today because Greg's behind the bar and he just doesn't know how to make a Bloody Mary like Cindy. And I'm like, that pisses me off, not because it's me, but like, why isn't it all the same? Like, why can't we just agree that on the person who has the best recipe and make that the standard, and put the pride aside? I know everybody has their way. They like to throw an extra dash.
Yeah.
This is how I do mine. You know what I mean? Like, get the hell out of here with that. Like, it should be the same. You know what I mean? I feel like it should be the same always. And
Yeah.
then there's always going to be your favorite bartender. Like, the personality that you mix with the best, or the one that you think is the funniest or most entertaining, or makes you forget
Pays the most
about your
attention.
day. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't be like the drink. You know what I mean? Like, every drink should be the same. And I feel like when you pour like we do, it's not an issue of like, oh, her drinks are stronger. Like, the drinks are strong. You know what I mean? Hold on. I have a foster dog who's exploring the track right now.
Yeah. That's one great thing too about you is during this time you've been fostering dogs and adding to your family.
Already a huge family.
Yeah. You would have been the perfect person to talk to about this. We talked about this last week, but we talked about Lady Gaga and the stealing of the dogs. And David's take was what was your take, David? It was the
I
dogs are not
was
family, right?
Well, no, it's not that the dogs were family. It's the fact that you offered $500,000 for your dogs back, but didn't include like, hey, I want to catch the guys that shot my dog walker. There was like a separation of your own humanity towards somebody who was actually shot. You lost 2 of 3 dogs, and you want to drop $500,000 for 2 dogs when you're not even there half the time.
Yeah, I don't know how to comment on that because you don't know what the extent of the relationship is. For example, she could have this guy as a dog walker, and he may very well make $2 million a year and have health benefits and a retirement plan because of her. She doesn't strike me as like a greedy bitch type. You know what I mean? Like, she strikes me as somebody who's like compassionate. So, and not that I like know a lot
Right,
about
right.
her. You know what I mean? But he just kind of strikes me as like a person who's not like money driven, so to speak. So I think most importantly, like, yeah, you want to get your dogs back because they don't have a voice. Once somebody takes them, they're gone, and in her case, I think she's lucky because of the celebrity and the amount of fame that she has. It would have been really hard for anybody to do anything with those dogs, and it's really sad when you see what's going on because this is an epidemic with dogs right now,
Really?
specifically French bulldogs, and the problem is that I think you get people who are just desperate, and they'll steal anything, whether they're like breaking into a store or a car or whatever. I think if you're stealing,
Packages off your porch.
yeah, if you're stealing somebody's pet, like that's pretty low down. Like, that's the ultimate. I'm a desperate person with like really probably no options and no morals and no like compass. You know what I mean? So like, I don't judge her for what she put out for the dogs because we don't know what she's doing for that guy. Like, if he took a bullet for the dogs that she's paying $500,000 to get back, I'm assuming that she's going to take care of him pretty well. I don't think that she's a bad person, and I certainly don't think she's going to want to do this guy dirty because if he went out on TV and said, like, I took a bullet for this lady's dogs and she didn't even pay me for that week, like, the whole explode in anger. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't be having it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, I just think it's horrible because I know a lot of people who have those dogs. And I feel like, is it only a matter of time before, like, they're just walking their dog and a car pulls up and somebody tries to steal their animal because they know that it's worth. Like, I know a guy who bought one of those for like 10 grand.
What?
Yeah, and that's on the lower end for these dogs, I've learned. Like, some of these dogs are $40,000 and $50,000 each, and they sell them that way because of the earning potential on breeding them. So like, they'll say, look, I bred 1 litter, there was 8 puppies, I sold them for $20K each. So it then goes from I'm a person who's emphatic about that breed and I love that breed and I'm passionate about bulldogs or Frenchies to, it's like carrying a Prada or like a Louis Vuitton. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a status symbol almost, and then people see it and they want to take it from you because they figure they can breed it. Not very many people fix those dogs when they buy them. because they know that if they meet another person, whether it just be on Craigslist or at a dog park, they can bring them together. Even with limited AKC registration, which most of these dogs have, they still say that this dog has papers. So, for example, I don't know how familiar you are with AKC, but AKC will offer limited registration on puppies that come from parents that are not, let's say, exceptional quality. You know what I mean? They'll say, yeah, the parents are both AKC certified, but one of the parents has a defect, whether it be like a marking, a white patch of fur here, or something out of the ordinary for that breed. They will register the puppies with limited registration, meaning if you breed them, those puppies don't come with papers. So, people will like say, yeah, I have those dogs, and look, here's its papers. And they think, oh yeah, my dog comes with papers because the parents had papers, and the seller will like Xerox those. And when you have an actual AKC certified dog, there's a lineage chart that shows you like where each parent came from, and like the whole bloodline essentially.
Right.
So they'll give a buyer a copy of that and say like, here's your dog at the bottom right here. And people don't know any better, but there's actually people out there spending upwards of $8,000 and $10,000 for these dogs, which is why when you see somebody like pull over and shoot somebody, like I saw a lot of people being interviewed in West Hollywood. Like, that's where this happened, right? It was West Hollywood. Okay. And it's like, these guys are like, why would anybody want to do that to a dog? I just don't get it. And I'm like, no, that's the thing. You don't get it. Like, you're clueless about why they're doing this. They're not stealing it because they know whose dog it is, or because they're mad at dogs, or because, this or that. They're stealing. Puppies are worth a minimum of $5,000 a piece. And if you know anything about like illegitimate breeders or backyard breeders, they'll call them, they'll just breed a dog until it can't breed anymore. And then when that dog is unable to be bred or produce puppies, they dump it at a shelter, or they take it for a ride and dump it on the street. So that's kind of how that works. And those dogs are just worth too much money right now. I mean, every dog has gone through a phase. Like, you had the Dalmatians with 101 Dalmatians. Everybody wanted a Dalmatian. You had the pugs with Men in Black. When Men in Black came out, everybody had to have a fucking pug. And then Disney put out some other movie about snow dogs, and everybody had to have a husky. And it's just like, this is the current, everybody wanted a Chihuahua when Paris Hilton was carrying one around in a purse. And now some influencer somewhere got a French Bulldog. And now there are more variants of French Bulldog that I've learned about like this week alone than I ever thought could have existed when it comes to like their coat, their color, the markings, the type of ears, like every little thing, and all that stuff determines their value. So I don't know. I just think it's horrible. That's like stealing someone's kid to sell it. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's going to stop, because we're living in a time right now where a lot of people are really desperate, And again, a time where people are just void of morals. They just don't care. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
When you see somebody get shot for a dog, people think, oh, that's just outrageous. It's not a dog. It's a $80,000 earning potential.
Yeah, it's a fucking paycheck.
Thank you for enlightening us on that. You know what I mean? Because
I'm smarter now than I was in regards to the whole
but
dog.
go back to like the original thing. I'm pretty certain she's gonna take care of dude. Like, he's gonna get broke off proper. He's not gonna see a medical bill. He's not gonna go with. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a bonus in his future.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? That's like if you had somebody, excuse me, watching your kids, and they fought. The worst thing they did was release the audio on that. That was horrible for that.
I didn't even hear that. I didn't even hear that.
I didn't hear it.
It's terrible. It's so
graphic.
Not good. He screams a lot, and it's just like, you'd be really embarrassed if that was you. You know what I mean? Very high pitched screaming.
Oh my god. No.
And it was like, oh, I feel bad, of course, for everybody involved, but like, cut the audio.
If Lady Gaga, if you're listening right now or watching, just pay off the audio guy and just have it go away.
Yeah. I mean, the guy, they're not going to stress on this. They're not going to make a big deal out of him. He's not like the guy who said, hide your kids, hide your wife. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna be a thing. You know what I mean? He's gonna go away because it was a good deed he did, and nobody focuses on good deeds for longer than like 8 hours. But
not in our society now.
criticizing her, and the fact that she would spend so much. I see it a lot online. If you ever want to like really gauge the intellect of your community, just read the comments. Like, go to Channel 7's Facebook page and read the comments,
Right.
and that will really kind of floor you and put you in like a place of perspective where you're like, wow, holy crap. I mean, like, talk about like things that are completely unrelated. They'll be like, she's paying $500,000 to get her dogs back, and there's homeless vets on the street. Like, oh my God, what does one thing have to do with the other? Like,
The other.
Okay, yes, but no.
Now,
You know?
if it was homeless veterinarians, okay, but
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you can't do anything anymore. You could give charity and you could volunteer your time, and they'll still say, well, yeah, he drove a fucking BMW to go do the charity work. Like, you have to. There's just no pleasing anybody anymore.
Yeah, there really isn't.
So I take like a nod to those people who just say, fuck you, I don't care what you think, this is my life and I do what I want. You know what I mean? I don't care what they report on me in the news because it's just not important.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And speaking of not important, sports. We are weeks away from the Dodgers, and baseball opening up, and they are gonna allow some people to actually go to the game. So I'm very excited about that. Maybe I can, and this is what I'm more excited about. Dodger Stadium holds 56,000 people on a sellout day. And I never go to sellout games. They're gonna do to 20,000. They're gonna do 20,000 people about now for I don't know until I think they're projecting until July, because July, that's when they project a lot of people are going to be vaccinated and they could start really opening up. And I like that because I've gone to day games where there's 20,000 people there, and I have space. The line to get food is like 2 seconds. So I'm extremely excited about that. That's going on, and of course for all the other baseball fans and stuff like that, I'm sure they're hopefully excited to this. One of the things that the pandemic did, I think, was give us a resurgence in baseball, because that was the one thing that was the first thing that was postponed, and then people started like, hey, I gotta watch my baseball. So I'm really excited for that to come on. That's, I think, the only thing I got going on for sports. David, you got any, or Greg? I know you're a big sports guy.
I live it, I breathe it. What else can I say? You've said it all.
You said it all.
Yeah, the countless jerseys and
Yes.
and yeah.
Down my wall back there, you see them?
Yeah. There's a big game at the bar. Who wants to change shifts?
Yeah.
Memorabilia.
No, man. I mean, sports is it's in a lull right now. I mean, baseball's about to start. Basketball is halfway done. March Madness is gonna start.
Is it going to start though? Because I mean, it was stopped last year, so this year
they're supposed to have the entire tournament in one place. So it's all going to be in Indianapolis.
Gotcha.
Outside of that, there's really nothing in sports going on that I want to bring up. I mean, unless you want to talk about fucking the new Space Jam.
New Space Jam, is that coming out?
Yeah, Space Jam 2
is that
with
coming out
LeBron
this year?
James.
All right. I mean, I found Lola Bunny attractive. You know what I mean? I wonder how she holds up after all these years.
Just it. They made her less sexy. They took away the curves that she had in the first movie.
First Jessica Rabbit, now Lola.
And they got rid of Pepe Le Pew because he was too rapey.
Let's just call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? He was.
He was
Um,
very rapey.
but they could have, you know what would have been cool if they would have got Pepe Le Pew and given him some classes, or like, put him with like, I don't know, Epstein or something like that, and he would have like changed his ways. I don't know, like, you know what I mean? They could try to rehab the character or something.
I don't think they're saving him. I mean, I grew up with him, and I'm not rapey, so so you know what I mean. I mean, it's education more than
Yeah,
anything. I mean, the
be aware
entire
of
Looney
this
Tunes
guy.
was a racist cartoon, just from top to bottom. So
Yeah.
they didn't give it to everybody. Um, but yeah, I think that about covers it as sports. But I do want to reach out. So, is there, as a businessman in this pandemic, Greg, with everything with the vaccinations, has there been any changes coming along or anything that you've heard in regards to changing of colors and fucking opening up and everything?
Yes, but to be 100% honest, it's just everything is speculative right now. I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. People are saying this. Nobody has really put like pen to paper on anything and given us like a definitive. I haven't seen any updates that have said, yes, April 1st is going to happen, but everybody keeps saying within the first week or two of April that we'll be back. Some people are just insisting that it's going to be an outdoor thing at 50%. Some people are saying that it's going to be 50% outside and 25% inside. So I have no idea. I mean, as like a person who owns a business and relies on these kind of updates, I feel like there's a huge disconnect. Like in the beginning of this, we were being updated constantly when the 2 weeks to flatten the curve closure started. Like they were in touch with us like weekly, then it went to monthly, then it went to just like crickets, and nobody was saying anything because I don't know why. Maybe they just had nothing to say or whatever. The news wasn't good. So it just became quiet, like nobody said anything. We just kept having to like speculate ourselves on what we were seeing and what we were hearing. And so now I'm hearing a lot from like other bartenders who are saying, this is what I've been told. And I'm hearing it from the supplier side too, from like distribution and the people that we order our products and our alcohol through. They're all saying the same thing. They've been told that this is going to happen like within the first 2 weeks of April. So we can assume that, but we just don't know anything for certain until I see like a revision to the closures. And the other thing is like now when you get so close to an actual reopening, you have a lot of people who just say fuck it and we're going to open now because maybe they can't hang on, or maybe they just feel like they've waited long enough, or if they don't open now they're going to lose their business, or whatever it may be. I don't know, but I'm seeing a lot of that right now. Like as I look around, if they told us if we were going to open on April 1st, there's just a ton of people who jumped forward and opened in March, because they're like, well, it's close enough, and I can't wait any longer. And I think it also depends on where you live. We do business in LA County, which was like the most restrictive tier. We were hit different than a lot of other counties, considering our size in relation to San Bernardino. San Bernardino County is huge, and LA had way worse numbers.
Yeah.
I live in San Bernardino County, so when I drive home and I pass down, like, let's call it Main Street, like I look around and all the bars are open, and there's lots of cars there, and none of them are doing business outside. You know what I mean? Like the restaurants where I live all attempted to do outdoor dining in October, and then November and December hit, and they were like, "It's cold." And customers
Come
don't,
inside.
so they just
Yeah.
open up, and now everybody's been back to open up here, and it's not that far away. So I mean, like I said, it's just a matter of like geographically where you're at, county wise. There's a different attitude towards it here, and the same thing in Riverside. Everybody seems to be a little bit more, or I should say, a little less concerned. And than we have been in LA County. Like I didn't want to take chances because there's just too much that I didn't know about this and still don't know about this. So go out there and hold such a firm position on, is it safe or not? You know what I mean? I'm governed by the state of California because that's who holds my license. So if they tell me that I can't open, then I can't open, because if they pull my license, then the whole thing is null and void. You know what I mean? You can't sell alcohol without a license. You go to jail. So, first and foremost, they have me. You know what I mean? We don't have the ability to just like make our own rules. We've all kind of seen what happens when you decide to do that, Unfortunately, there's not a lot of consistency in it. So when you get counties nearby that decide that they've had enough or they're going to do whatever they want, then you just get migration. Because I don't know how many customers of mine in West Covina I talk to that say they go to places in like the Inland Empire, let's just say. You know what I mean? Because they know that it's open and you can go inside there, and they don't even ask you to wear a mask. And I'm like, ooh, okay, good for you.
Yeah.
Greg, I've
And
been a
I
staunch, loyal guy. I'm just waiting for, the Cove to open up so I can have my cocktail.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Of course, I appreciate everybody's loyalty. I feel like it's been pretty overwhelming to see how many people have reached out and just asked what they could do, or just the people who constantly reach out and want to know when they can come back. It makes me feel good to know that there's still a lot of people out there who are, ready to kind of go back to some sort of normal when we're allowed to, because it's scary as a business owner. I look at what we've done in the past sales wise and how we budgeted ourselves and how we staff the bar. And I feel like all that stuff is in question right now, because it's like, I don't know how much revenue a business can generate at 50% occupancy. And I don't know how many people are actually going to come back, how many people are actually going to be scared and think that, coronavirus is still something that is I don't want to go out right now. It's just, it hasn't been enough time since the vaccine or whatever it is. So that plays on my mind too. And I think, gosh, can I schedule the same way? Will we have two bartenders like we did before? Do we run the same hours? Because at current scheduling, like, we pay a lot out in overtime just to keep the bar open the amount of hours we do. And, going forward, is that going to be feasible? I don't know. I hope so. And I think that we have enough people, like waiting in the lurks that are like just ready to come back and support however they can. But, there's no certain in this thing. So for me, there's always the question of like, what does the future look like for the industry? It's not even just the Cove; it's the industry itself. It's bars, restaurants, music venues. I think it's some of the things that are the most important to our lives when you think of like your mental well-being and your social interactions and how you communicate and how you live. Those are all really important things. But I think so many people this year have discovered that they like staying home and not dealing with people, and like having their food delivered, and like just all these things that they learned that they could do, and that kind of makes me think, wow, maybe we won't have the same momentum that we did in 2016, 17, and 18 and 19. We might not see the traffic that we saw back then because people don't feel the same way about going out, and we won't know that until it happens. So, I'm optimistic, and I think that people are going to be comfortable enough, but it just always plays on my mind, especially when you own a small bar. It's not like we have 3,000 square feet to,
yeah.
comfortably space 60 people, So when they tell me 50% capacity, I think, my God, that's 22 people, like,
That's a day shift.
yeah. So that kind of stuff worries me. I'm optimistic about it because I feel like it's an industry that's pretty resilient. It has a lot of bounce back. It has a lot of loyalty, and it's like I said, it plays an important part of people's lives. We're social creatures. There's a lot of people out there who are looking for love, just looking to get out of the house, whatever it is. Whatever brings you to a bar. So I don't know. I think we're gonna be fine, and it doesn't keep me up at night. I'm not trying to say I'm stressed out about it, but it's not like before where you just could go to sleep knowing that the next day was going to be great, just like the day before that. Everything feels different now, so we'll just have to play it by ear. I think it's going to be good. I just hope that more people will accept like the vaccine, so that we can kind of move towards a place of having people like immune, because otherwise I just think that people are not cool with like going into a place and sitting there with a mask on. It takes away from a lot of it. Like as much as you say, I'll wear it, if that means I can go to the bar, I'll wear it. Once you get there, it's a different story.
Yeah.
People start
Yeah,
feeling.
because you can't drink with it on, so it's like you have to take it off, and then it's like I don't know.
Then
I had this conversation with somebody in line today. Had to get my registration. I was at the AAA, and I told the lady, she's an older lady. She's like, I got vaccinated. I was like, oh, good for you. I haven't yet. Don't know when I qualify or whatever. And I was just like, I really believe that I'm gonna keep the mask on for a good while when I go out. I mean, obviously, I can go to restaurants and bars and stuff like that. The risk that I take, but for general use, I still feel that the mask was something because I haven't really got sick. It's been a year, and like I've been healthier, and I've stayed away from people, and I feel
A
for my
whole
own
year
health.
without a common cold is like, wow.
Yeah,
What do these things do?
I've had allergies, but outside of that, it's like, and like my other business, like when I'm not at the bar and do security, I was working in offices, and offices are just germ infested. It's just the cold's gonna go to everybody, and I just like I don't know if I want to go back to an office where I know when one person gets sick, I'm gonna get sick.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing that people need to address going forward. There has to be a method for people to stay home when they're sick. You know what I mean? Like you just can't expect people to come and work when they're sick because it's a recipe for disaster, whether or not it's a flu, coronavirus, a common cold, strep throat, whatever. Like it can be avoided. We've learned that you can avoid a lot of it. I'm not saying it can be eliminated completely, but it just keeping us a distance from people and washing your hands more and wearing a mask has kept us from, like me personally, from having any illness whatsoever this whole year. I don't even knock on wood when I say that shit anymore because it's like it's not about superstition. It's about good practices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but that is a cultural thing. I want to say because there were so many times where you would get sick and be like, well, I'm still going to work, because I'm still like hardcore, I'm still going to do that. So we have to really normalize saying, hey, if you're sick, stay home.
yes, I agree. But another thing is people have to have personal accountability. And what I mean by that is like everybody I know has used their sick time when they weren't sick because they wanted to go to Vegas or they wanted to go somewhere else. And they're like, well, I have sick days I could use. And then they use them and then shit hits the fan and they get sick and they have to go to work because otherwise it's a write-up or a possible termination or like some other like corrective action because the sick time that you had was used in time of health. And that's like, that's something that people just have to stop doing because it's like, I'm not saying that every company gives like adequate vacation time or whatever it is, but like it's kind of like you have to know that when you take your job, like we're all adults here, like if you have a job that you work 6 days a week, guess what? You're not going on vacation because you work 6 days a week, like that's just the reality of it. And I think that there's just too many people who are not living in the real world. They want to do things that A, they can't afford, and B, that they shouldn't even be doing in the first place. You know what I mean? It's like,
I've lived that life.
yeah. I mean, I think everybody has in some way, shape, or form, But at some point, like when you're an adult, like that's part of like owning your life, like there's consequences to stupid decisions and like using your sick time to go to Vegas is one of them because now when you're sick, you have to go to work and get everybody sick or you get to stay home unpaid. So I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with personal responsibility. Before coronavirus happened, the bar was like the one place where we would look at people when they come in sick, like, what the fuck are you doing here? You sound shitty right now. What happened? Oh, I'm not feeling good. Well, why are you here?
Yeah.
You're going to give it to me, and then I'm going to give it to him, and then he's going to give it back to me, and then everybody in the bar is going to be sick for like the next month because we're all regulars. You know what I mean? It's like, stay your ass at home.
Yeah, because I'm gonna drown my cold in tequila.
Alcohol kills all the germs, and I'm like, well, then
Yeah.
CVS and buy a handle and go home. It just doesn't make any sense. I get it. You don't want to be home bored. We don't want your germs. You know.
Yeah. And that concludes our sports segment, ladies and gentlemen.
Always does.
Always does.
Now it's on to weather.
This is our last call for topics. Anything you want to talk about, Greg?
Well, not specifically. I feel like we did kind of cover a lot of stuff, but no, not specifically. I think I'm good.
David?
No. I mean, I talked about coming to America, which was kind of my big thing. Wanted an update on Greg in the bar. Got that. Uh, you know, Miss the bar, miss hanging out with everybody. Hopefully the vaccinations do bring us all closer together sooner than later. But other than that, no.
Yeah. I'll real quick on the vaccination. I did what they call a vaccine. I wanted to show people that I'm getting vaccinated. And that like I'm not gonna turn into some like weird ghoul or anything. I just wanted to show them like, hey, look, if I don't turn crazy, but at the same time, it's kind of like an insurance policy just in case I do. Of that whole like, look, I got vaccinated, I'm normal, guys, don't be afraid of it, it's completely fine. So I did that, and it was weird doing it, because this is like taking a photo of myself and putting it on social media is been extremely rare in my life. I rarely do it. It's usually me, talking with musicians or whatever, that stuff that I do. So I just wanted to kind of normalize that and get that out there and let everybody. Not that I'm like a hero or anything to anybody, but I just was like, well, I'm kind of somebody that everybody knows. So if I can normalize this, I think that would be cool.
Real quick, my favorite part of the anti-vaxxers is they're all our age, and to go to school, they were vaccinated. So they've been vaccinated before. None of these people that are anti-vaxxers have never not been vaccinated once in their life. And I don't see how that changed in the last 30 years. I get the flu shot every year because I had the flu. That shit sucks.
I've had a flu shot every year for like the past 5 years, and I've never had the flu. Like that's another thing people always say. I get the flu shot and then I get the flu right after, and I'm like, that's never happened to me. And I've literally had the last 5 years straight.
Yeah.
Anytime you travel to another country, what do they say? Go see a doctor.
Go home, you filthy American.
Well, that's when we're there. That's when we're there.
You land.
Yeah, they're like, before you go to a foreign country, make sure you see your doctor and get vaccinated because there's stuff over there that you need to get vaccinated. That's why this whole, again, this vaccination thing has been really weird. Last topic I want to talk to you guys about, and it was, I don't know if it's a topic or just something very weird that I noticed. Was I was outside with a buddy of mine. We went to go have a donut and coffee and talk, and then we're parked right in back of my car. And as we're parking, we're just talking, and I'm playing him some music because I don't know if you guys heard that new Sonic Silk, that Bruno Mars new thing.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard it yet.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. If you guys haven't heard it, make sure after this program to go look it up. Sonic Silk. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, so I was playing it for him, like, dude, you gotta hear this song. It's fucking dope. And as we're waiting, a car stops right next to us. And it's, it's a woman comes out, and I'm just like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on here? And she like throws something in the back of like my car, like at the bottom, by the wheel. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, do I know this girl? What's going on? And then she just jumps, and she sees us, and she jumps in her car and just like darts off. And I tell my buddy Juan, I'm like, Juan, I gotta go outside. I gotta see. Did she leave a grenade? Like, what is happening? Bruno Mars, am I gonna catch a grenade for you? Like, what's going on? So I walk outside, and like, I think she threw trash on my wheel. What the fuck? And as I keep on looking, I notice that she's a crazy cat lady. She's feeding all the cats around the neighborhood. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, why would you just stop off at random places, drop food off in random wheels, and give food to cats? It's the most oddest thing in the world. That was my first sign of a crazy cat lady. I mean, I've seen crazy cat ladies with like the 10s and 20s, but this is my first like rogue crazy cat lady that I've ever seen.
My thing is like, if she's leaving food by the tires, is she for the cats or is she against the cats? Like,
That's
hoping that one gets run over.
She's like, I put some extra food up by the radiator.
I didn't even think of that. That's true. Yeah, yeah.
Like,
So I don't know. I didn't know
the
how to
worst
take
place to
this.
put cat food.
It was the fucking most oddest thing in the world. She saw us and then she just like darted off. And then I'm like looking and I just see her driving around like the other blocks and shit. And I'm like, who has the time for this? You know? It's just
All of us. All of us. COVID.
yeah. So just want to share that it is now time to do our final cheers of the show. And David, go ahead and start off the final cheers. What are you cheersing to today?
Well, since in honor of our guest, cheers to small business owners who have been able to survive and keep it going and haven't lost faith. So cheers to Greg and everybody who's been hit really hard, for the small businesses.
Definitely,
Cheers, all
definitely.
you guys.
Greg, who are you cheersing to?
This one will just go out to everybody, all our supporters, everybody who's been so loyal to the bar and to the bartenders for so many years, and all the people who are reaching out and just asking what they can do or if they can help, or if they need to go march at City Hall. I mean, like we've had some crazy offers of like um, people willing to like help us out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most of which we just have to like kindly decline because it's illegal, or you know what I mean, like stuff like that. But I don't know. Mine goes out to everybody that's hanging on with us. Little Omar for
Oh wow, get that.
something a little smooth and sweet.
There you
Yeah.
go.
My cheers is gonna go out to, of course, Greg and all the bartenders at the Cove. We miss you guys, and we miss just hanging out. And thank you, Greg, for coming on the show. Really, truly appreciate it. Yeah, and I miss seeing you guys. I miss seeing everybody. I just saw David last week, but I miss seeing everybody else. So cheers to all the bartenders out there, whether you're working or not. Cheers to you guys and everyone at the Cove. So that's it, man. That's gonna wrap it up for this edition of Drinks to Words by our guest has been Greg. Make sure, is there any way that people can support you, whether it's I don't know, sending in cash, or like is
Money
like
and dog food. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
No, we're good. I'm good. I just the best thing for me is just like the outreach and having people send messages to like the Cove's Facebook and the Cove's Instagram, and just it's the constant reminder that people are there and they're waiting. So that's just been like the most reassuring thing for me. Because like I said, we just don't know what to expect going back. But when you see people reaching out consistently and staying connected and engaged with us, I think that's probably meant the most to me through the last year.
Gotcha. Any new swag? Did you? I mean, we can buy shirts, but is there going to be any new swag coming? Maybe once this is over.
Actually, there will be, and we're a little bit behind on what we probably should have done, but we're going to be putting everything up online. so that you can actually just throw stuff in a cart and buy that way. And you're not able to come into the bar like times like these, you know?
Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's going to be great.
Oh, awesome.
You'd all be the first one with the cart. You know what I mean? So
I'm like, look at the cart. Look at the cart on that guy.
his cart holds up. You know what I mean?
Buying all mediums. He has a very small family.
Not anymore, man. I gotta. That's why I gotta get back into the gym. But again, thanks again to Greg and of course to the Cove Cocktail Bar. Support them, send them emails, and DM them. And of course, anything that we've talked about, you can always email us or slide in the DM and check us out. We are on tons and tons of streaming platforms, so go check that out. And on YouTube, we are on YouTube as well, so you could see it. You can either listen to it or you could see it. Make sure to go check that out. And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Drinks Words By. And we're out of here. Later.
All right, everybody.
Appreciate you.